Crew B2 students also. Welcome, thank you all for being here. So, picture this. Oh, not that. There we go. Picture this. You walk into a classroom and you can truly be yourself. You're not just a student in that room. You're a creator and a leader and an architect of your own education. What if how you learn is just as important as what you learn? What if you had the freedom to choose what to explore, how to explore it, and how to show what you know? Imagine with me, what if we could design classrooms that were as creative and diverse as the students we served? I'm here because I believe these what-ifs can become a reality. We can transform our classrooms into places that are more unique, inspiring, and engaging for all learners. I'm going to share an idea with you tonight that has the power to revolutionize the way we do school. An idea that highlights choice and agency. I'm talking about Universal Design for Learning, or UDL. UDL is an approach to learning that makes meaning accessible and flexible for all students, no matter their strengths, needs, or cultural backgrounds. UDL is grounded in neuroscience, cognitive psychology, disability studies, and asset-based inclusive pedagogy. Within the framework of UDL, we give students choice. And there's three main areas that we focus on when we are giving students choice. One area is around engagement, and these choices answer the question, why does this matter to me? Why does it matter to my family, to my community? We also offer choices around action and expression. How? How am I going to share what I know in a way that makes sense to me and that my audience cares about? We also give students choices, offer students choices around representation. What materials are the students provided? What kind of learning tasks are they invited to explore? The organization who created the UDL guidelines, known as CAST, states that UDL grew from one of the most consistent findings in educational research. Learners are highly diverse. In nearly every study on intervention and instruction, individual difference is not only present, it's prominent. I'm going to share a story with you that I learned from Harvard professor Todd Rose. In the 1950s, the Air Force had cutting-edge technology and better training for their pilots than they had ever had, and yet their pilots were not meeting expectations. And the pilots said the flight deck is uncomfortable and difficult to use. And the Air Force said, but we designed that flight deck for you, specifically for you, based on the average size of the pilot. And that makes sense, right? If you design something for the average pilot, shouldn't most pilots be able to use it efficiently? It sounds right, but it's actually wrong. I wanted to go, and my 13-year-old daughter said, Mom, please don't do that. An Air Force researcher named Gilbert Daniels studied over 4,000 pilots, and he measured them across 10 dimensions, such as height, width of shoulder, length of torso. He wanted to know how many pilots were average across all 10 dimensions. How many do you think? If you guess 0, you're right. Daniels proved there is no average pilot. The Air Force instructed the companies who built their planes to no longer design for the average, but instead design to the edges. Designing to the edges means to intentionally create a product, service, or experience, keeping in mind the needs of users at the extreme ends of the spectrum. For example, adjustable seats allow shorter or taller pilots to access controls. I believe my mic is going in and out. It's okay, we'll work with it. Not only did the new flight decks improve the performance of the pilots, it dramatically increased the talent pool because the new accommodations allowed for more diversity in the size of pilots. Now, most of us may have not flown a fighter jet, but I bet most of us have sat in a classroom. And I'm here to tell you, just as there is no average pilot, there is no average person. And there is no average student across all dimensions. We're all unique. We all have a different combination of preferences and interests and strengths and challenges. Some of us learn best by doing, others by seeing, others by hearing. Some of us thrive in groups and others work best alone. When we design classrooms, curricula, and lesson plans for this myth of average, we're actually designing for no one. However, when we design to the edges, keeping in mind our individual students' strengths and interests, we create engaging experiences that welcomes all students. This journey toward UDL and inclusivity is personal to me. I used to work in a self-contained classroom. And what that means is somewhere along the line, some adults decided it would be best for everyone involved if this child with disabilities learned in a separate setting, segregated from their peers, and segregated from the academic, cultural opportunities of the general education classroom, despite mountains of evidence telling us that this decision is not good for kids. But in the beginning, I loved my classroom. I still do love my classroom. But I loved being in a self-contained classroom. It felt like the one-room schoolhouse stories my grandfather used to tell. We had 2 teachers and 7 students, grades 5th through 8th, and a rich sense of belonging. We were a small, joyful community, showing up for each other and doing school the best way we know how. But as much as I loved my sweet little classroom, I came to learn something new. That the beauty of the one-room schoolhouse was also its limitation. Because we were not a one-room schoolhouse. We were a classroom nestled beside other classrooms, part of an interactive network of innovation. And we were missing out on the full resources our school had to offer, and they were missing out on us. In our journey to become an integrated classroom, rather than a segregated one, we've learned universal design is fundamental to our meaningful inclusion. For those of you who haven't experienced universal design in a classroom, I'm going to share 2 examples of what it might look like. So let's say teachers are asking students to copy notes from the board, a very common ask. In a UDL classroom, you might see the teacher or student writing main ideas in red, supporting details in blue, and critical thinking questions or extension prompts in orange. Now, students have choice. They can either write all text and answer all questions, or they can focus just on the main ideas, All students also have access to a printed version of the notes and can receive a red marker to trace or annotate or highlight the main ideas, and a blue marker to do the same for the supporting details. Students are invited to draw and label their ideas. Students are also, all students, have access to a digital version of the notes where they can use read aloud features or Google Images. This is an example of one of our students using this method. You see his blue and red pencil, the copy of notes that he's following along with. And we found that this student had a hidden talent of drawing and conceptualizing science concepts visually. We often shared his pictures with other classes. So the beauty of this is that all students are engaging in the content in a way that's meaningful for them, accessible to them, and in a way that makes sense to them. UDL encourages students to take ownership of their learning, set their own goals, and ask for the support that they need. One more example tonight of what UDL might look like in the classroom. So let's say that we're asking students to get into small groups. Another very common very common instance that you may see in classrooms. So in the UDL class, when students get into groups, the first thing they're going to do is decide on their leadership role. So maybe one student has a strength and an interest and enjoys reading text out loud. They'll become the reader. Perhaps one student loves to transfer the ideas of their group into writing. They'll be the writer. Maybe we have a student who has strengths in executive functioning and can be mindful of the time and help keep the group on task and pacing appropriately so that they can complete their project. So after students all find their leadership role based on their strength and interest, the next thing they're going to do is take their challenge or their mission and explore a subtopic, a part of it that they're most interested in. And they can do that by themselves or with a partner. And then they bring what they've learned back to their small group, and the small group decides how they're going to present their information to the class. So maybe it's a poster, or a video, or slides, or a reader's theater script, however they want to show what they know to their class. We can see from these examples how universal design can enhance belonging and also autonomy and agency. So, I love this picture. This is an example of community and belonging. Last year, we took our whole class to the Special Olympics. Some students participated as athletes. Some participated as buddies, helping the athletes cross the finish line. And the rest of the class lined up along the track and held signs and cheered. And so this is an example of how beautiful UDL in a classroom can really bring students together and foster this sense of community. I want you to reflect on your own experiences now. Remember the adjustable seats in the fighter jets? Those adjustable seats led to adjustable parts in cars. So, thumbs up if you've ever slid a seat forward or slid it back. Let me see your thumbs. Thumbs up if you've done this, okay? Thumbs up if you've ever laid a seat back. Thumbs up if you've ever adjusted a mirror. And then thumbs up if you've ever turned the volume up. Who benefits from universal design? All of us. Think about it. What if you had the choice to slide your education forward or just step it back for a minute? What if you had the choice to tilt it a little this way or that? What if you had the agency to shape your learning? Here's my challenge to you. speak up. Speak up for the ways that you learn best, for the choices that you need in your classrooms. Talk to your teachers, your principals, and your peers about the opportunity of universal design. I believe that if we design to the edges, design for all, and design for diversity, we can create classrooms where every what if can become a reality. Thank you.